Live, buddy.
There we go. Live video is starting.
I think I'll just keep
All
the head.
right. Hello, everybody. Uh, wish I knew. Pardon the lack of understanding of what's going on right now. This is me. This is the first time I'm using the Facebook Live for this. So there was a little bit of a user delay in trying to get it going. Um, so I see we have 30 people on right now, right? 3 viewers. All right, Michael Drake. Hi, guys. Excuse me. Okay. So, welcome. Please drop a comment so I know that this is yes, you can hear us. I'll be looking at the comments to tell if for some reason there's a technical difficulty anybody needs to make me aware of. But I see Sherry, Jan, Lou. All right. So we've got a good number of people, 85 viewers. Thank you guys for being patient and waiting. Really appreciate it. I hope that everyone just watched, otherwise you wouldn't be on here, the season 3 premiere of The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch. And if you're at all anything like the people who watched it, of course I'm biased, right, having produced the show, but I think it was a fantastic episode. It really cooked. It was bigger and more bad ASS than ever before. And I just think it was starting the season off with a true bang. So thank you and welcome, Dragon and Thomas, the live stream.
Good to be here again.
Yeah, good to see your faces as always. Miss you guys. I think that first of all, would you guys, obviously you guys lived this, right? And I want to get to people's questions, but it's I was there, not only filming it, but in edit episode a dozen plus times, but it's a different experience when it actually plays on TV, right? How did you guys feel watching it? Did you feel like I did my job and the promise I made to you on day one that I would do the best that I could to tell your story honestly and accurately as possible? What did you think?
You go first, Dragon, and I'll follow up.
No. Obviously, that has to be cut out of what it, of 42 minutes do justice to everything that goes behind it happened and the truthful nature of it and how true to form it was and the actual events. No, that was a good job. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think that, everyone knows that that's probably the biggest level of enthusiasm we can expect out of you. So I can tell that's like level 11 for Dragon, guys. So really like the show.
The thing is better than.
I know, I do.
But it goes both ways.
Yeah. That's true. So Thomas, what'd you think?
Well, I tell people a lot. I don't envy the job that you guys have because we film so much, and to try to figure out, what parts to put in and what parts to leave out. I think you guys did a great job of balancing that, and accurately portraying it. And the experiment that showed on television tonight, that was one that still to this day mystifies. And without giving, I haven't watched a single episode this year. I didn't preview anything. So I'm right there with the fans. I don't know. I mean, I was there, but I don't know what's coming up. So I'm not going to say much more other than the fact that I felt it was accurate. And, watching it and knowing all the preparation, like, for example, those GPS sensors, watching us prepare those and get those ready would be like watching paint dry. But I worked with Eric one night where we took those sensors and we literally walked the length of the mesa while the little receivers were there at the command center. And then we pulled them up and compared them, and they were all spot on. And that's the part of that preparation and the diligence behind the scenes of getting things ready is part that we can't show on television, but is critical for people to know that those GPS sensors, when they don't work properly, that's significant because we thoroughly tested each one of them rigorously before we put them up in that helicopter.
Well, and go see the prep that went into each of those GPS sensors. That was a kit of pieces that literally was hundreds of micro soldering that Eric had to do with magnification, and each one 6 hours to complete. And he made sure that they were all. He and Thomas went and tested all of them, and that's the maddening shit about the ranch is literally you do that. You make every preparation good, and as we try to go experiment with something, then it's like, meh, I don't care what it took.
And we weighed each one of those individually. I mean, people don't see that we were putting like fishing weights and water, like we put some little containers of water. Everyone was measured down to the gram to make sure that each bottle was identical in weight and mass and so that they would fall equally and evenly. So those are the things, like we put a lot of work in each one of these experiments.
It's look, my first time on the ranch, right? And you guys know I've been trying to get there for a long time. I know all the stories, right, that came before Brandon's time, and how many times, not just from this season or previous seasons, but the ranch knows what you're going to do and doesn't want you to do it and stops you doing it. And it's just it's an idea that you're like, on its surface, you hear that like that's the ranch as if it's some intelligence, but as you see in the super tease at the end of the show, as we see in this episode, you have to wonder what the legitimacy is behind that statement, what the reality is behind that statement. Why do things just not work when they're supposed to work?
Mark's frozen with his mouth open.
I remember asking Travis, having a real detailed discussion with you guys to understand just to understand the technology, right? Do they do this? Do they separate from each other? Do they sometimes show up where they're not? Do they move around a lot? And I remember Travis was just like, no, the satellite GPS system are, the range of distance of, region of error is, or something like that. It's not what we saw those GPS sensors do doesn't happen with modern day GPS and satellite. So I think that, I was and they were like, what? Holy cow. So I think that, for me, the first experiment going that way was just mind bending, and you get used to it, but not used to it. Right. So I think that this was, in my personal opinion, just an excellent way to kick off and the mystery of this place, and what's to come. And look, I'm looking at the comments right now, and people are just saying that, epic way to start. It's amazing, just so big, and just it's great to see that. It's just great to see people really, just into this. So it's got to feel good for you. I hope to see that and be like, okay, the producers and directors and people like myself, we didn't mess it up.
You did good.
Yeah. Good. And, the big takeaway from last season by the finale with what was under the helicopter. So I'm glad that we did. That's where we started this season, was right where it left off. Because I know a lot of the criticism is, happening, why don't you follow up, so on and so forth. And we do. It's just, like the ranch does. There one day, and as far as from a TV show standpoint goes, it's not exciting to see people fail and not find anything. So the fact of the matter is, we are following up. We're not just running around doing whatever. We do follow up on everything. That's just sometimes, like I said, from a television standpoint, not necessarily the most exciting thing to see that, oops, we didn't. So with that said, I'll put in a shameless plug here real quick. We're actually in the next couple of days launching SkinWalker Ranch website that is going to be an opportunity for individuals who want to find what goes on behind the scenes, what we do when the camera's rolling. We've compiled a lot of things, and we're going to have the opportunity to join a membership and subscribe. A lot of those questions you have can be answered. I'm excited for that because that's why I go on podcasts and think, wait a minute, don't call us liars. There really is truth behind it, but much per on a 42-minute television program. So to hijack it, Mark, but I'm really excited about it. I know Thomas is excited about it.
Yeah,
but
I'm excited.
But we're ready to launch here any day, and
that's amazing. And I'll share them with everybody. I'll post out so everybody's aware of it. But that's some of the people are like, what about? I want to see the other stuff that didn't make it into the show. And I know it's not specifically what you're talking about, but like there's, it's 42 minutes for a setup, a meeting with a governor, an incident during the kickoff meeting, a planning of an experiment, setting up the experiment, conducting the experiment, finishing the experiment, and reviewing the data, right? In 40 minutes, that takes, that's I think somebody did the math recently, right?
Less than 1%.
It's like
it was
1%.
Less than 1%. I did how many? How many hours we actually filmed, and then you put that into how many minutes make the episode. What you see on TV represents less than 1% of the film that we put in the can.
I think we lost Mark. He's saying things.
We lost your audio there, friend.
We got no audio. So we'll just ad-lib. Yeah, I agree. To edit things down.
You would think after 2 years of COVID, like this stuff would be worked out.
I know.
I still attend a lot of virtual meetings where we can't seem to get things going. It just makes me laugh. I'm like, 2 years of practice would still.
I can't hear him, so I'm wondering if he's wearing pants. Any idea? Who knows? No, we got nothing.
I wonder if people can hear. Can the people out there hear us? I'm watching the comments here.
This could be comedy here.
So I'm watching the comments here. If somebody can comment, can you still hear us?
Can you hear? Hi.
Okay,
Mark,
they're saying yes, they can. Thank you. Oh wait, Rebecca says no, but okay. Well, I guess while he's trying to figure out his audio, I'll go down here through some of these questions real quick.
Mark, we got no audio, dude. You're gonna have to trust us, and that's a schedule. Okay, we got you.
Oh, there we go. He's back.
Literally, I did nothing. So you know what? And look, I want to get to the comments and the questions, but you guys are used to this. I got used to it on the ranch, but malfunctions, personal equipment malfunctions, phone calls, internet, like you just talk about the ranch and stuff stops working. And I don't think I'll ever understand that. I'll never will. But yeah, Thomas, you want to pick a couple of things out of the comments here and answer some questions?
Well, they're just asking about those canisters.
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I just saw a couple. They asked how many canisters that we found. No, we did not find all the canisters. I don't know. I mean, this was from last summer, so I don't remember off the top of my head what the exact number was, but there was a number of them that we never found. Oh, okay. Go ahead, Dragon.
Yes. So we dropped 44 GPS trackers. A couple had cameras to try and get footage out of. The orange ones had GPS trackers in them. There was 4 of those. We were trying to scatter to see if there was any sort of.
Oh, you just hit the mute button.
I did.
Oh, you're back. All right.
Okay. Anyway, there canisters that had GPS trackers. The others we were looking. Happening, I swear. It's like anyway. I'm not touching anything. I've got AirPods.
Your background
It's
looks
all
like
right.
we're at the ranch.
But doesn't mean the ranch isn't with me.
Right.
Anyway, just the other day, I found one of the canisters that was way off track. You know, half a mile away. Yeah, we've yet to recover everything. It makes no sense. There's still 2 GPS trackers out there living. So yeah, we're there.
Hey, Mark, do you mind? I just watching some of these questions. There's one we have to ask.
Go
Dragon.
ahead.
Okay, so Michael wants to know, Dragon, do you ever get to wear comfortable clothes?
So, behind the secrets of TV, they want us to wear the same thing every day because it shows continuity and things like that. But hey, look, I'm wearing just a jacket. I got
The same thing every day because you look good in it.
I've even got a
That's
SkinWalker
all.
Ranch t-shirt on. So yes,
So do I.
I'm wearing comfortable clothes today. So we're good. Thank you. And besides, it's not bad stuff. I feel hip.
Sorry,
Thomas, you want to keep going? Or you want me to pick some Dragon? You want to pick another one? Pick a comment? I'm happy to
don't
give it
have.
to
I can't see them. You forget. I am not on Facebook.
Dragon.
So
Yeah.
you guys got to ask me. So I'm shooting blind here.
I've got my phone set up right here by the camera, so I'm kind of watching them as they scroll. But
well, there's
that-
one.
I
There's
saw
one
that
that
one, I
people
couldn't
ask a
help.
lot. There's one that people ask a lot on this comments. I was getting a lot of Twitter questions for it. I know that, you've answered this a lot of times, but people want to know. They knows Dragon how you got your nickname.
Oh gosh.
If that's what people want to know, that's what we should.
Fine. It's an inherited nickname, so I do like totally Reader's Digest this for you younger people that don't know what was the book on your back of your parents' toilet where it was short stories. So, short of it, I came onto the property. Robert Bigelow had employed some individuals, former military. From what I understand, one of them had codename Dragon. An individual come out to the ranch that notorious for sneaking on. He finally got invited on. And I was told, we don't know anything about this guy, so don't. Well, so I didn't. The resting bitch face came out. He really didn't like me. Got UTV with Jim Morse and said, what's the deal with that hard ass security guy? And he's like, yeah, you don't want to mess with him. He's like, is that the guy they call Dragon? And said, oh yeah, he's the real deal. And so got online, talked about his interaction with this Dragon character. Not to mess. He's mean business. Word got back to Brandon. Brandon being a years thought it was the greatest thing in the world, so he started calling me Dragon. It's the production company is Dragon. If people need to know, I refer to myself as Dragon. And so self-given nickname. It's not like Step Brothers where Thomas said, hey, I'll call me Nighthawk. It is an inherited nickname. Than Bryant, so I don't have to spit on people. But with that said, that's how the nickname came to be. It literally became just an online thing where people were bantering back and forth saying, oh yeah, that Dragon guy shoots his gun at me, all this different kind of stuff, which has never happened, but that the internet works. So it stuck and I'll own it. And nicknames.
Names. I mean, I could think of a few, but it's not a bad nickname.
I have those too, but it's on TV.
I appreciate you answering that for everyone because it's a question that everybody wants to know the answer to, and not everyone knows it. And happy we can do stuff like this so that people can ask those questions. And
it's better that you answer it than me because I make stuff up. So you don't want my story, my version.
Hey, I got dirty versions of it, but I'm going to leave that alone for now.
Right.
A lot of people want to know where they can get a t-shirt. Are you going to be selling those on your website?
Yep, we will. Yep, they'll
That's
be
great.
released.
Yeah, they might already be on there. Actually,
me
I'm not
down
There's
for
some
sure.
cool
two.
ones. Okay,
So
so you
so
go
you
down
know,
to
there's a
Venice
couple of
Beach.
there's a few questions in here I really want to discuss with you guys because you know, and there's a few good ones. I think we definitely ones that comes up is just asking about if you're it's a blanket question like are you scared, you know, we had talked about this, and for anybody who doesn't know, I recorded a podcast, an after show podcast episode with Dragon, Eric Bard and Thomas that I'll drop tomorrow. Find that all through the Strange Story Facebook page. But we talked about, you know, you went up in that helicopter following an incident last season where the altimeter warning was telling you that there was something right under the helicopter, which we watched video of what that could have been. And so I think that, you know, for anyone who may not listen to the podcast, I think it's a good question. Like, look, I mean, I've answered this question. Everyone's answered this question of just what's it like being on the ranch, and you know, I think that we can get into that into more depth. But you were up in the helicopter over the triangle in a helicopter with the doors open on a spot where you know, a lot of weird stuff has happened. And last year there was an issue with the helicopter being up there.
Like heights that much. So being 6,000-7,000 feet above the range opens with the door open wasn't my favorite thing. As the ranch and the anomaly goes, and I know this sounds really, but I've come to the conclusion that ranch is going to do something, then going to do something. I fortunate in the fact that I haven't had any negative reactions to the property. Thomas, you know, who suffered a lot. It almost cost him his for whatever reason, whether the ranch that I'm there to play or intent or whatever malicious intent or anything. It's just you never know, and we need to study if it's something biological differently or whatever it is. But um, the answers that we were trying to get and was more important than any sort of trepidation that I had as far as engaging with the anomaly. Personal experience, and I'm all about personal experience. I came onto the property, it took a long time before I ever saw or experienced anything, and I refused to just say, "Oh yeah, I'm on SkinWalker Ranch, all this crazy stuff." I've seen things, I've seen it happen to other people, but never personally. So, experience it own eyes or being, then I'm not going to buy in. You know, I was asked to go do it. You know, if anyone's going to put their neck on the line, team or whatever, then I'm willing to do it. But yeah, I mean, you always have a little bit of trepidation because you don't know what in the hell's going to happen. So if bring it on, I'm not going to do that. But as dear something's going to crash in a helicopter, given what I saw, it's in the back of your mind. But I knew we had work to be done, and I knew that, you know, look, one way or the other, someone was going to do it, and I was willing to do so.
And Michael Drake says that's because you're the dragon.
Okay, because I have wings and I can fly. I've been called a reptilian
because
before,
you're tough, because you're the, you know, you're the one that's gonna take it first before you let it happen to someone else. And that's, you know, that raises another question that I see a lot of people have asked here and on the Facebook group and all that, for Thomas, if, you know, was how does your family feel about what happened to you now? Meaning, is there still a fear that when you go to the ranch, you may bring some, you know, how are you feeling now? You know, we didn't get really to cover in the episode because of just time. You know, those were some of the questions we you know, about the beginning of the season. Was there or just concern about, you know, being poking the hornet's nest considering what happened to you? And then we talked in the podcast about the recently revealed DIA, report, and things that you already know about the sort of acute physiological effects of anomalous encounters. So the questions up here is, how are you doing? And how going into the ranch prior to this first experiment, what were you thinking and what were you feeling?
Well, season two, when we concluded filming season two, people asked me, what my thoughts were, if I was sad it was over, and my response was, I need a break from that place. I don't know that I could have done another week. It was intense, and it takes its toll on you. Whatever takes place at the ranch seems to amplify your emotions. So, if you have a little thing that's bothering you, it amplifies it. It really, that's one thing that we all have to keep in check out there. It's probably one of the harder things with filming is you have a lot of people in a small space trying to, I mean, the ranch is big, but when we're all on top of each other trying to accomplish a task, and it's just whatever energy is out there just amplifies. Going into season three, had a little bit of a break, so I was excited to, get back with the team as far as in that setting, that format, and go at it again. I was excited, but there is definitely trepidation, and yes, I do get scared on the ranch. Matter of fact, I wouldn't say scared. I'd say there's been a couple times I've been terrified. There've been some times on that ranch where I can't match another time in my life where I felt the same amount of terror as I felt there. Health wise, I'm fine. But I have to be very careful. I've kind of learned the feel of the ranch, and there's times when I have that feeling that I need to leave, and so I make an immediate exit, and I've been able to avoid serious things. There've been a few flare-ups. We may address those in the future, but I'm fine, and the ranch is an intense place.
Yeah, intense is an understatement. I think that you know, without this show and without the 2+ seasons so far, people have ideas about the ranch because of the lore, the history, the mystery. A different thing when you're there, day in and day out, and start to experience things that just don't make any sense. And you know, that's some of the questions here, for instance, are directly related to that lore. The idea of a portal in the sky goes back to the Shermans, right? First being George Knapp, and the NIDS team about portals in the sky, and then you guys had John Alexander out last year, who talked about the portal and seeing the portal when he was with the NIDS team. And right away, we go up to the triangle spot, and Travis was talking about that lore and that of, is there a portal or something like that in the sky? And it's an interesting question. Now, of course, there's some questions on here that I'm not going to next, and whatnot. But
That's
I
easy,
for
Mark.
one, I think,
That's the easy
yeah,
answer.
but
Stay tuned.
no, but yeah, but seriously, I think that one of the reasons why I was so enthused at the first experiment was because of the direct follow up on that spot from last season. I mean, to go right back up to where left off in a spot that is a massive mystery, because you guys could have started in a million places, right? The Homestead or Homestead 2, or you know uh, where the cow died. I mean, there's a lot of
There's no
spots, right?
shortage. Yeah.
No shortage. But to say, let's go right back up to where we left off, and that spot where it is so full mystery, and a place that where you can't see anything, I thought was a great way to, you know, because of that, right? Because of this question of portals and whatnot in the sky. And that's the most fantastical, right? Like, ever heard that story of portals in the sky, first came to this ranch or heard about the ranch and thought, oh yeah, that might be something real, right? There's no way.
No,
No.
I called bullshit on all of it.
And what
Like literally when Brandon told me he was buying this property. Okay, why? I said, you don't even own a pair. Buying a bunch of dirt out in the Uinta Basin. And he talked about all. Okay, cool. But I didn't buy any of it.
Yeah.
I love Brandon's line, and I'm very similar now to where I was to a believer because of things that had happened to Thomas and things that to now an experiencer. I've experienced things. There's no getting around what happened when the rabbi was there and Thomas and I walked to and a cold, which felt like it was coming from the inside out, and we imagery that something crazy happened and things like that. That's not, and I felt it physically with my body. So now I've experienced those things. So what went from fairy tale fiction growing up in the 80s, it's all science fiction. Now thinking that given that and the data we've seen, the ability of something literally like that, it definitely the way that you thought you saw the world and what was real and what was fake and what wasn't. And so, in the episode with my kids, and they know I don't like heights, and what happened if you would have fell out, I'm like, yeah, maybe I would have dropped through a portal and it's like talk about that sort of thing. It's just like 6 years ago when I got associated with the property, I would have been, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And I even tell stories to people. People talk to me, they're like, tell me about this. I feel like I have to give this disclaimer or this preface to whatever I sounds crazy. Believe me, I would have thought it sounded crazy too, but it's real shit. I can't.
Well, and in a lot of the podcasts, I get asked that, like, what's the scariest thing that's ever happened to you on the ranch? Before season 3, I always shared, besides my head injury, which I really haven't talked about much and I'm not ready to talk about yet. But, outside of that, I always used to share the experience of hearing a voice and ignoring it and then having a physiological effect. And now that we filmed season 3, the last few interviews I've done, they ask me what's the scariest thing. And I tell them the scariest thing that I've experienced, or not scariest, but the most disturbing thing that I've seen on the ranch happened during the filming of season 3. So I have to say, just stay tuned, because I can't even share my most disturbing experience on the ranch yet because it hasn't shown on TV.
Right. Yeah, it's tough because I'm sitting there, my family, they're like, well, what happens? What's that about? Oh my God, I wish that it's like, part of me was, it was like, binge watching on Netflix so people can watch the entire season. Because there's so much to talk about. There's so much to just there's talk about. We got another comment point, here.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead. No, please.
You first. People.
No, I was just going to say, to your point, Thomas and I and the whole team have said, look, people enjoyed season 1. It was a build-up. A lot of things happened. I can tell you that this season that is incredible and impactful and eventful combined. I'll leave it at that.
Which is, in edit, we're sitting there and one of the editors is what happened this season. And he's like, oh, and that's episode 9. Or like, no, it's still episode 1. And he was like, wait, what? All of that stuff, how much stuff happened this season? And part of me was like, well, that's not normal. Island. Yeah.
Well, I think, I was thinking about it, and I was at my son's tennis match tonight, and his coach was visiting with me about it. And, you can't say anything, you can't give anything away, but he's all like, what's the big cliffhanger? And I'm like, which one? Honestly, in my mind, I can think of 4 different things that happened over the course of the filming that could all be the cliffhanger. All of them are equally amazing, equally disturbing. So it's like, there's not just one.
And I'll tell you, my personal pick is, and no one seeing, I think the first 4 blurbs are out on like the TV guide about what's in the episode. But once we get to episode 6, that's when I think it just skyrockets to the next level for me. Every episode's at that point, it's just like the mad dash. And I just think that, it's funny because I think a lot of it is a credit to you guys this season because a lot of stuff happens on the ranch, but not all of it makes sense to the experiment or the investigation you're doing at the moment. And that's, unfortunately why a lot of it gets left on the floor, right? It's just it may not it's great stuff that happens in its pieces to any answers because it's not directly related to what you're into at the moment. Whereas in this past season, the way you guys conducted your experiments and your follow-ups to the experiments, and you made sure to build on what happened to the next experiment, allowed for a lot more of those incidents to become incorporated into the show. Evolution of investigating.
I'm glad you've seen the episodes. It's funny. How intense, Mark, you were there. Thomas, obviously, you were there. You know that section of time is. I mean, it's so many hours and things happening, and it's just nonstop. That on the day, and Thomas and I joked about after season 1. We're like, "Oh crap, is any going to boot?" Because it was almost like a brainwash of everything that happened, and then you. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. So forth, and so as you mentioned, as Thomas said, there's like so many cliffhangers. Like my mind still scrambles to try and go through the Rolodex. So many things, and it was so long, it was so intense, and it was a lot of work that, I'm just as excited as the people that are watching it to see it. Yes, I lived it, but to see how, to see it from a different perspective is going to be really exciting, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Go ahead, Thomas.
I was just going to say, I can't wait, even though I know what we filmed and knowing some of the highlights of what's definitely going to make it on TV. Even then, I'm just so excited to share it because I'm excited to talk about it. And so I can't wait for people to see it.
Matthew Barbario, like he makes a comment about the portal phenomenon, thought it was ridiculous. And then, once he found SkinWalker Ranch, his opinions changed. Somebody else put Steven Spielberg knows it's real. I don't know where that comes from, but that's cool. Let's see. I want to just look at some of this. So just a couple of quick, answers to some of your questions. Did each of everything we're talking about and hinting about, you'll see on the show? Yeah. And that's what's funny is, we captured, you guys incredible amount of incidents, encounters, and evidence that, in spite of the roadblocks that the ranch bring evidence and data. So, that's something I would tell people is, and that's, it's grind because on the one hand, it's a lot of work out there, but on the other hand, you don't want to stop. You don't want to stop working, investigating, experimenting, and filming because anything can happen at any time. And you don't, I mean, it's just, at times it's a running joke when it's like the cameras are turned off because we have to turn them off when something happens, but luck we're there long enough and you guys have so much tech out around the ranch that everything, just about everything was captured.
I'm glad you brought that point up because it goes back to what we were saying, because the TV production company is only there for 3 or 4. The investigation never stops. Like we're experimenting, we're doing all of that on a regular basis. It is a 24/7, 365 science. Now, yes, the TV cameras are there to capture it and document what we're doing, and we're grateful for that. Like, I think their presence there has actually lent itself to things happening. Things have happened to the production company camera. They have this thing called the fourth.
That was another question people asked. Does stuff happen to people?
But that's another reason why we're trying to do our own thing with this website, so hunger to understand more. And we've gotten that question when the cameras aren't on. You'll get to see a different side of us, kind of like that angry guy. We have a lot of fun, but it goes into it. And there's so many things that, again, like Mark, you said, credit, they may not, or maybe the cameras were down, or you can't show everything to like what we've been building over the seasons. But I know it's important, and we're going to reveal that to people as well.
And some of the dry science. I mean,
Right.
The thing about the show is, and this is what I tell people too, is there has to be a compromise. If you guys were to show like the nitty gritty science that's going on behind the scene, the testing, the GPS, the data that Eric combs through, it's like watching paint dry, or as Eric says, it's like dry paint.
You'd look like me half the time going, oh. That's what it would be like.
So
like when Eric,
that doesn't play well with probably 98% of the audience, right? And so, but there are those individuals out there that are watching that care very much about that type of data. They want to know, what exactly were the type of those sensors that we were using, and like they want the actual numbers, the data, the science, the hardcore stuff, so that they can do their own calculations and stuff. And so that to put some of his papers up there, and Travis and the scientists can be able to share some of that hard data that those scientists out there that want are going to be able to have. But
we're excited for it. It's going to be SkinWalker Ranch. It's called SkinWalker Insider. We're going to be launching it. We're excited. I know Mark said he's willing to post.
Absolutely,
it's an exciting thing because a lot, as Thomas said, that goes on behind the scenes that people care about. Your TV viewer, that how TV shows work, interesting enough for the science people, but it has to be like and sexy enough or whatever for the average. We're going to be able to give you more behind the scenes. So,
well, and also, history has very stringent when it comes to what they require of us as far as ensuring authenticity, and part of that is an experience. If you guys see something or feel something and the cameras don't get it, we can't use it. There's none of that. So there's a lot of times where the cameras just didn't capture what happened, and it's like, that's on us, right? We can't, it's the ranch, right? What are you gonna do?
Well, we have the same policy.
My good friend Jason Shook. If it didn't have her on, it didn't happen, right?
Jason, co-executive producer out in the field and working in edit as well, and hopefully he'll step out from behind this broadcast one of these days and join us. He's been on the shows. Yeah, but let me know. Shook's been on the show since season 1, but he also has a lot of experience on the island, so he's no stranger to just digging for the truth and enduring, sort of that pain and hardship that comes with the long term. That is the reality of how you get answers to these bigger questions.
And we're grateful, like the team for Prometheus and Mark and everybody, best to do. And, we give them a hard time, Jason about Oak Island and things like that. And but the work that they, is without dispute. We're a competitive group, but at the end of the day, like we're asked to work with people that not only care about us, but care about what's going on there. Mark inserted himself and asked it because he truly has an interest in the work that we're doing and what's going on there. And so with that, kudos to everybody. We couldn't be blessed with a better group of people to work with and for.
Agreed. And I appreciated the fact that you talk about behind the scenes. I can't even count the number of nights you came in afterwards, Mark, sat down, like really spent a lot of time with the scientists trying to understand exactly, what took place, understand the data. I mean, all you producers did a lot of work to try to understand, because it can be a lot to keep up with, and especially if you're coming in new to it. And so kudos to all of you guys for really taking the time to try to understand it, so that you could accurately portray it. And I think it shows in the product that aired tonight. Is you guys, it was a plus effort on your guys' part.
Thank you for
Look,
that.
we've already been on.
Appreciates that.
We've been on and produced longer than the 42 minutes of TV show. We haven't had a commercial break. So
yeah, and to that end, we really for tonight. I know it's getting late for a lot of people, and I appreciate you guys sticking around afterwards. And everybody next week goes back to or picks up on its regular time slot, which is 9 p.m. Eastern. I don't know what that means for Central Mountain. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You know better than me.
Central, 7 Mountain, and then who knows what the hell on the Pacific Coast they're gonna do.
Well, it goes 9 on the Pacific. We just to watch it a little early, right? Because even though I'm in California, I get so thanks guys so much. Everybody who tuned in appreciates it. I appreciate your appreciation, and I know everyone else on the team knows how you value all the work that we do. And it really, it really, if you weren't so sort of isolated in this little corner of of Utah, we probably wouldn't a good team, right? I mean, really, everybody there, well-oiled machine of a team, because we live this day to day with each other's.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly appreciate you guys, because you never slowed down once.
Well,
and if I was on a TV show, I might be like, I'm taking the day off. So I appreciate you didn't do that.
2 weeks off, but that's a different story.
Yeah.
Anyway, no, thanks to you, Mark. I appreciate you taking this from our big thing was we wanted something that would take it through the end of post-production. So the things that we felt were took notes, and we're willing to do that. And you, along with Jason and people invested in it. Can't thank you guys enough. And then to only watching, but that, are following along and everything. Appreciate that too. It's our story. We call our toys. We're just a group of guys that knew Brandon together for whatever reason, and best we can. But you have to know it's all real, it's authentic, and we're gonna keep going, and we're excited for it. So
well, and hopefully, as much as you guys are up for it, I know people appreciate it. So I'm happy to do this.
My friend,
as possible. And thank you everyone for jumping on and signing up and dealing with our technical issues, my technical issues in the beginning. I appreciate it. It won't happen that often. But I'm just glad we could do this, and we'll keep following the site, Strange Story CO at Strange Story Co. across Facebook, Instagram, Twitter for more updates. I post promos, sometimes some sneak peek stuff, and I'll be posting the podcast episode that we did as future live events like this, podcasts and whatnot. So thanks everyone, and I'm Mark Marinacci, Dragon Arnold, and Thomas Winterton.
Thank you. Good night.
Thanks, guys.